You want a head start on a project. Starting from blank files is rare. I can't even remember the last time I started a project from blank files. It's very, very rare. Sometimes these boilerplates or these projects and these set of files and folders are called boilerplates or frameworks or starter kits or just many, many other names. So in industry, again, it's really rare that you start from a blank set of files and folders. So let's take a look at some real fast. Here is the HTML5 boilerplate. I've downloaded it just to show you how much is there. Here's a list of the 22 best CSS frameworks. Here's Google's own website starter kit, and just scrolling on down, you can see here just how many files are already included. So let's take a look at the HTML5 boilerplate real quick. Again, we're not going to be using this, but you can begin to see just how much is actually there. And if I list it out, all right, look at all these files just to start a project. Okay, you might not know what browser config or crossdomain.xml are. Just kind of need to know that they're there. Okay, here's humans.txt. So what we're going to do in Web 2 is start with take this concept but make our own boilerplate, make our own starter package. Many companies will have their own. So in Web 3, I even introduced to you many other boilerplates, many other package managers. So I introduced this idea of a package manager. So here if I take our Web 2 starter and I drop it in Web 3, I introduced to you this idea of a package manager. Here you can see I'm using this software called CodeKit, which is also a package manager. Inside of Sass, there's a package manager, and even in CodePen itself, there's a package manager. So this idea isn't relegated to our class. So if we click on this plus button, you see here, wow, there's quite a bit. There's like add a project, add a framework. Notice they say both add project and add framework, and many other popular frameworks and starter kits. So if I hit this button right here, you're going to see just how many packages I can add to our existing package. So just let me scroll through this and you can begin to see how modular modern web design and development has become. And this shouldn't be intimidating. If anything, this is kind of hopeful because a lot of our common problems have already been solved, and someone's solution, right, can become your own. And so there's a lot here. And if we understand it conceptually, we can be able to use any single one of these. Okay? And listed here is, of course, jQuery, the one that we'll be using. So this falls right in line with the atomic design process, right? And why and how it's become the modern way to do things. So let's practice this concept of CodePen. What CodePen allows you to do is test and experiment your code and ideas really, really quickly, because it has all the popular packages, and it gives you a way to add in other packages really, really quickly. Packages, files, folders, frameworks, whatever you want to call it. You're basically this concept of, I have a central file, right? I'm going to pull in all these other resources. Let's make that real fast. So if we're going to go to CodePen, and let's go make our template, right? In this case, our own CodePen boilerplate. So this right here, we can call this our Web 2 starter. Okay. This right here is going to mimic our index.html file. So the HTML panel is going to mimic our index.html panel. Our CSS is going to mimic our styles.css panel. And just a heads up, later on, it's also going to mimic our styles.scss when we start working with the SCSS or Sass preprocessor. But for right now, you just need to be aware that this exists, and we'll be using it later, but we're not using it right now. Next, we're going to be having this panel mimic our scripts.js panel. All right, and then we're going to go into settings and turn on all the things that we need. In this case, we're going to use no preprocessor. Going to make sure that it's responsive. Going to use normalize and the auto prefixer. And on JavaScript, we want to make sure that we have jQuery turned on, because that is our library of choice. And the last thing we want to do is check template to turn it into a template. Now we can hit save and close. And this is going to be our template for all the pens. Okay, so we've taken this idea of a boilerplate and applied it here to a pen. Okay. And CodePen allows you to do that very quickly. So now in the future, when we're testing out our ideas, we can simply go to Web 2 Starter, and everything that we have set up is already in place. So to recap, the HTML panel mimics index.html, the CSS panel styles.css, and later styles.scss, the Sass extension, and the JavaScript panel mimics scripts.js, and everything that we need to start working is included in this. So now that we have a way to practice something, we can also go ahead and apply this. So CodePen is great for practice, but not good for a live website. One, not everybody who comes to your website wants to see your code. Two, it's not version controlled. Three, you can't put a domain name to it. Four, it's not supposed to do that. Five, it's not how Chris Corrier wants you to use it. So I can go on and on and on. But CodePen is not for live websites. It's just that. It's just for this little experiment. Okay. So again, we think of CodePen as kind of our digital sketchbook. So we want to create a website using our Web 2 Starter for all future projects, and it will evolve, okay, as our needs change, and we'll add files, we will remove files throughout the quarter. So now we have a head start in future projects. So let's put this to use. Real quick, I want you to understand that we're not going to be using CodeKit in Web 2. I just wanted to show you that there is more to this. So just looking ahead to Web 3, this idea of a boilerplate or a starter package is not something that is specific to this class. So I'm going to turn off CodeKit. Then I'm going to go and download the Web 2 Starter. Again, we're all going to be using the same starter package. I will be updating this package throughout the quarter. So using our working pen, and here's the pen that we made in class, and then we went and recreated this locally. So we have a starter package to work with, and then put it up to GitHub. And there's no reason to go through that here because we already did it in class. So the HTML panel, index.html, is right here. And then styles.css is in our CSS folder right here, all lowercase. JS folder has our scripts.js, which is this panel here. And then inside of our index.html, everything is loaded. So normalize from this checkbox here. Okay. And our styles.css we just looked at. And then jQuery is right there. And lastly, this section right here is for our plugin. And notice it's blank because you can put any plugin you want there. Okay. The example we used in class was lettering. Right? There's that plugin right there. And so we'll be coming back to lettering.js. But that's what this file right here is for, plugin.js, right? And from our stack, jQuery comes first, the plugin comes next because any jQuery plugins require jQuery, and then we're always icing on the cake with our scripts.js, this panel right here. So what we've done is we've mimicked this panel, right, locally with these files. So now that we have these files, we can go ahead and download this because this isn't your username. Two, if we clone it, right, open in desktop and clone it, what's going to happen, we're going to get the entire commit history. You're going to get this entire 8 commit history. And you don't want that. You want to start a new project. So step 1 of our 3-step process is get or make files. In this case, because it's a new project, we're going to download zip and get new files. Okay. So then once we have our new files, we can extract that. And then name it whatever we like. In this case, test. And now we can take our brand new project and drop it into brackets, and we're good to go. And we have a way now to say, right, awesome, new website. And again, we want to make sure that we have all the packages we need to work. Okay, so our first package that we need here is Emmet. Okay, there, that's installed, and then later in the quarter we're going to be using something called brackets Sass. Okay, and there it is right there, also installed.